Washington, D.C., was a city of power, ambition, and secrets. In its marble halls and dimly lit restaurants, deals were struck, alliances forged, and betrayals whispered. For Senator James Carver, 42, this was the world he thrived in. Charismatic, sharp-witted, and with a smile that won over voters, James was the rising star of the Democratic Party, tipped as a future presidential candidate. He was the golden boy of Capitol Hill, adored by constituents and feared by rivals. His wife, Eleanor Carver, 39, was his perfect partner, elegant, intelligent, and a former lawyer who now ran a nonprofit for education reform. Together, they were a power couple, untouchable in the public eye. But beneath the polished surface, cracks were forming. James's relentless ambition left little room for Eleanor. Late nights at the office, endless campaign events, and hushed phone calls made her feel like a prop in his political machine. She missed the man she'd fallen in love with, a passionate idealist who once dreamed of changing the world. Not just climbing its ladders. Eleanor poured her energy into her nonprofit, but the loneliness gnawed at her, a quiet ache she couldn't ignore. Enter Sophia Reyes, 34, a tenacious political journalist for the Capitol Post. With her sharp intellect and relentless drive, Sophia had a reputation for breaking stories that shook DC. Her dark eyes and quick smile made her a fixture at press conferences, where she asked questions that left politicians squirming. James first noticed her during a heated Senate debate on healthcare reform. Her pointed question about his voting record caught him off guard, but he deflected with charm, earning a rare smirk from her. That fleeting moment sparked something dangerous. Their paths crossed again at a gala fundraiser for education, hosted by Eleanor's nonprofit. James, in a tailored tuxedo, worked the room, shaking hands and flashing his signature grin. Sophia, there to cover the event, wore a sleek red dress that turned heads. When they ended up at the bar, a casual conversation about policy turned personal. Sophia challenged his polished persona, teasing out the man behind the senator. James, unused to being seen so clearly, was hooked. By the end of the night, they exchanged numbers under the guise of off-the-record tips. What began as flirty texts evolved into secret meetings, a late-night coffee in a quiet Georgetown cafe, a stolen moment in a Senate office after hours, a weekend rendezvous at a discreet hotel in Virginia, far from DC's prying eyes. James told himself it was just a fling, a release from the pressures of his campaign. Sophia, meanwhile, seemed to revel in the thrill, her journalist's instinct for control making her the one steering their affair. Eleanor, busy with her nonprofit and unaware, noticed only that James seemed distracted, his excuses for late nights growing flimsier. But in Washington, secrets were currency, and James's affair was a ticking time bomb. The first warning came during a debate prep session. His campaign manager, Tom Hargrove, a grizzled veteran with a knack for sniffing out trouble, pulled him aside. "People are talking, James. Nothing concrete, but whispers about you and some reporter. Shut it down before it blows up." James laughed it off, assuring Tom it was just gossip. But unease settled in his gut. Sophia, when he mentioned the rumors, only smiled and said, "Let them talk. We're careful." The explosion came 6 weeks before Election Day, as James's Senate re-election campaign hit its peak. A bombshell article dropped in the Capitol Post, written by an anonymous source. Senator James Carver caught in steamy affair with journalist. Grainy photos showed James and Sophia at the Virginia hotel, their faces unmistakable. The article detailed their meetings, quoting texts that could only have come from their private exchanges. Social media erupted, with #CarverScandal trending by noon. Reporters swarmed James's office, and his poll numbers plummeted overnight. James was livid. He confronted Sophia in a frantic phone call, accusing her of leaking the story. She denied it, her voice calm but edged with something he couldn't place. "Why would I ruin my own career, James? Think about it." He wanted to believe her, but doubt crept in. At home, Eleanor was a storm of quiet fury. She didn't scream or cry. She simply looked at him with a mix of betrayal and disgust. "I trusted you," she said, before locking herself in their guest room. "James, desperate to salvage his campaign, hired a crisis PR firm and prepared a public apology, blaming personal failings, while vowing to fight for his constituents. But the scandal was only the beginning. At a press conference meant to quell the storm, a new figure emerged, Daniel Voss, a private investigator with a reputation for digging up dirt on DC's elite. Hired by an unnamed client, Voss dropped a bombshell that stunned the press corps. The affair, he claimed, was no accident, it was a setup orchestrated by Eleanor Carver herself. According to Voss, Eleanor had hired Sophia, a journalist with a history of bending ethics for a scoop, to seduce James and expose him. The goal? To destroy James's campaign and clear the way for Eleanor's own political ambitions. The room gasped. James, standing at the podium, felt the world tilt. Eleanor, watching from home, froze as cameras cut to her nonprofit's office, where reporters were already gathering. Voss presented evidence. Bank records showing payments from Eleanor's nonprofit to a shell company linked to Sophia, and encrypted emails between the two women. Discussing the plan, the narrative flipped. James was no longer just a cheating husband but a victim of a ruthless conspiracy. Public sympathy swung back toward him, with pundits decrying Eleanor's Machiavellian tactics. But the truth was murkier. Late that night, James confronted Eleanor in their Georgetown townhouse. She didn't deny Voss's claims, but her explanation was a gut punch. "You think I did this for power?" she said, her voice trembling. "I did it because you broke us. James, you chose her over me, over everything we built. I wanted you to feel what it's like to lose it all." She admitted to hiring Sophia, not to seduce him but to trail him, hoping to catch him in a lie. When Sophia suggested an affair to make it quick, Eleanor, consumed by hurt, agreed, but she hadn't expected Sophia to go rogue, leaking the story for her own fame. The final twist came a week later, as James's campaign teetered on the edge of collapse. Sophia, under pressure from a federal investigation into her ethics, released a tell-all interview. She confirmed Eleanor's role but revealed her own secret. She'd been working with James's rival, Republican Senator Richard Hale, the entire time. Hale, a cunning old-school politician, had paid Sophia to ensure James's downfall, promising her a book deal and a pundit gig. The affair, the leak, the scandal, it was all part of Hale's plan to eliminate James as a threat in the next presidential primary. The revelations shattered what was left of James's world. His campaign imploded, and he lost the election in a landslide. Eleanor, vilified as a scheming wife, shuttered her nonprofit and left DC, her reputation in tatters. Sophia, disgraced in journalism circles, took a job at a fringe media outlet, her ambition reduced to clickbait headlines. And James, once a rising star, retreated to a quiet law practice, haunted by the knowledge that his own choices had fueled the trap that destroyed him. But there was one secret no one else knew. In a safe deposit box, James kept a single email from Eleanor, sent the night she left. It read, "I loved you enough to ruin you, but I hated you enough to let it happen. We're both to blame." Those words, raw and unfiltered, were the only truth left in a city built on lies. The story ends with James standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, staring out at the National Mall. The city glittered with ambition, but he no longer belonged to it. He didn't know where he'd go next. But one thing was certain, the game of power had cost him everything.